Hi everyone, this is Yana Smakula for SimonsStamp.com and thank you for joining me today. In my last video here, I shared a few cards created with the Hannah Patterns stamp set, and they were heat embossed in white or craft. When you add a hint of red, white and craft also make a fabulous holiday color combination. So in this video, I'll show you how to create beautiful holiday cards using white heat embossing on Kraft Cardstock, and I'll share 2 ways you can color your outline images on Kraft. I'm going to be using this beautiful Winter Flowers stamp set from the newest Simons Stamp Believe release. This is a stunning set, and Simon has a set of flowers done in an identical style called Spring Flowers. I really like the sketchy look of these flowers and leaves. So I'm going to use images from here and heat emboss several backgrounds on Kraft Cardstock. I have 2 panels cut to 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I've treated them using an anti-static powder tool, and now I'm stamping the flowers from this set, the poinsettia, using Simon's embossing ink. If you'd like to make multiples of this design, you can use Misty Stamp Positioner. I'm making just 2 panels here, so it's a little faster to stamp my design using a clear block. I don't need my backgrounds to be identical, but if you wanted to have multiple identical backgrounds, Misty is the tool for the job. So I'm stamping 3 large flowers and also adding some foliage in between the images. I'll also stamp berries here and there to complete the backgrounds. I'm using specialty embossing ink, which remains wet for a long time, so I don't need to rush my stamping, and I also don't need to add embossing powder to every image right after I've stamped it onto my paper. Once my background is stamped, I'm going to add white embossing powder. I'm using Wow Opaque Bright White Detail Powder today and covering the entire surface of my paper. I'm going to preheat my heat tool and will go ahead and heat set the powder to melt it. So here are both of my backgrounds ready to be colored. Before I move on, I wanted to say that you can keep these as is, very natural looking. You can do this heat embossing on red cardstock or maybe green if you'd like to have a lot more color, or you can color some or all of the images here, and this is what I'm going to do. I have 2 backgrounds because I want to do 2 coloring methods or 2 coloring mediums, try 2 coloring mediums. First medium is watercolor pencils. I have Derwent Inktense watercolor pencils. I have a case of 36 pencils here, plus I bought some additional colors separately, and I'm going to use just one color to color my background. So this is red, it's 0400 Poppy Red, and I'm going to use this particular color to color my poinsettias and berries. Now you might think, hold on a second, this is not watercolor paper. How are you going to use a watercolor pencil on a non-watercolor paper? Well, very easy in fact. The key here is to add very little water and use a damp brush, water brush, not a wet water brush. Craft paper or non-watercolor paper can take a lot less water, so it is important to use as little water as possible. I like to use this Zig Detailer brush. It lets very little water out and it is perfect to use for projects like this one. I really like this particular brush. Also, these particular pencils, Inktense, make it very easy to add a thick, saturated layer of pigment onto paper. They are called Inktense because of how intense the pigment is. When you add water to this pigment, it never loses its color and really pops on the project. I've only recently gotten these pencils, but I really love how vibrant the colors are. Another trick to keep in mind when coloring heat embossed images is to try to stay away from the raised heat embossed edge. Notice how I'm coloring each petal or each section in the middle and staying away from the edges. I try not to hit the edge with a pencil so that I don't transfer my pigment onto the white edge. Once I come in with a water brush, I can move the pigment in that section and apply it right out to the edge of my petal. The other coloring medium I'm going to use is alcohol markers, Copic Markers. Now, Copic Markers will always give you a different color on Kraft compared to white. So it's a good idea to test your colors out on a sheet of craft paper and let the marker dry to see the true color you'll get when you'll finish your coloring. I wasn't sure what color I wanted to use or what color I'll end up having, so I tested a few colors out. and you can see the caps of my markers in the video here. I decided to go with the RV29 color and again do some selective coloring and color just a few of the petals on my poinsettias. With heat embossing, you want to be careful when coloring with alcohol-based markers not to touch the heat embossing with the tip of the marker, as alcohol might eat up the embossing powder and embossing powder could transfer onto the nib of the marker and damage it. You can see I'm being very careful and trying to go as close to the edge as possible and not go over the edge at all. I'm also not doing any shading here. I'm just laying a flat layer of color. You could do shading, but with all of the beautiful detail in these flowers, I don't really think you need to. I'm only using 2 coloring mediums here, but there are many more out there. You can use regular pencils or glitter brushes. The sky is the limit. So here are the 2 colored backgrounds side by side. The one on the left was colored using a watercolor pencil and the one on the right using a Copic marker. I did selective coloring and colored just a few petals on each of those, picking out different petals on each flower. You can color all of the petals if you'd like, and you can also add color to the leaves to add some green. For my sentiments, I'm going to use 2 stamp sets. First, I have this Believe set, and I'm going to use the larger outline Believe word, and I'm going to heat emboss Believe in Your Dreams in antique gold embossing powder onto a strip of vellum, which I'll later wrap around my colored panel. Now, this Believe stamp set, the sentiments in there are not just for holidays. They can be used all year round. For example, Believe in Your Dreams is not necessarily a holiday sentiment and can be used on an everyday card. And so are many other messages in this set. There are messages like believe in love, always believe in kindness of others, etc. My second sentiment comes from the Happy Christmas stamp set and reads, Happy Holidays from our family to yours. Now, the from our family to yours part is very detailed, and it got lost when I heat embossed it in antique gold embossing powder onto vellum. So I heat embossed it one more time in white detailed embossing powder onto a strip of red cardstock. I also needed something to hide the adhesive for this particular vellum piece to be able to attach it onto my card, so this red strip ended up serving a double purpose. So I used foam adhesive tape to foam mount the strip over vellum sentiment, and also hid double-sided adhesive tape under it to adhere the vellum piece onto the colored background. I love the way this turned out, especially with the 2 colors used for the letters H and Y. Lastly, I adhered my colored panels onto A2 top folding card bases made out of white cardstock. I forgot to mention that I trimmed my watercolor pencil panel down to 4 by 5¼ inches just so that I could have a nice white border on my card. For the other card, I wrapped the vellum strip around the panel, and this eliminated the need to adhere it down. To keep the look consistent, I also added a sentiment strip heat embossed in white onto red. Even though I didn't need it there to serve a specific function, I really liked having that pop of red on my card. I used a white gel pen to color the centers of the flowers and berries, and that finished my projects. I hope you enjoyed watching this video and will give this idea a try. Be sure to share what you make with us on social media. You can find the list of supplies I used for this project down below. Be sure to give this video a thumbs up and to subscribe to this channel if you haven't yet done so. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'll see you next time. Bye!